Okay, what's up, PT Tears? Abdul here, giving you the first video in our bonus content. And for this video, I'm going to talk about um, some self assessment that I think is important to do before you move forward in this process. Now, hopefully by now you've had a chance to read enough of the book to understand that the method that I focus on for getting people to live abroad for free and travel the world is by joining the Foreign Service. That may have come to us as a surprise to some of you, but it's really one of the very best ways to live overseas and see a lot of the world, you know, probably cheaper than you can ever do it, right? All your living expenses are paid for. The government takes care of all that. And there's plenty of travel that you can do in relation to the position that you hold. But living overseas also gives you an opportunity to explore whatever region you happen to be living in. I live in Africa right now. My wife and I live in Africa right now. And so our plan while we're here for 2 years is to see as many of the 54 countries that we can see. And we can easily do that. This past weekend, we plopped down to Kenya for the weekend. It was a 2 hour flight. So it's a lot easier for us to see the continent being posted here, living here, than it would be if we lived in the U.S. And so that goes for wherever in the world you may be. Hopefully, when we leave here, we can get a posting somewhere in South America, and then we can explore South America. We can explore Brazil. We can explore Ecuador. We can explore Peru, because it's easy to kind of travel across the region and very inexpensive too. We spent about 10 days in Colombia, 9 days actually, in Colombia this past Christmas. And we saw 4 different cities in Colombia, and it cost us $30 to fly from city to city. So we were able to see, 4 cities in the country of Colombia within a 9-10 day period for very, very inexpensively. So when you're posted overseas, you're living in these regions, that gives you an opportunity to explore those regions very inexpensively. And on top of that, you have no living expenses. So that's where a lot of the benefit comes in. So that's a little bit of background, very, very high level, just a small taste of what this whole thing is about. But before we go any further, I think it's very, very important to do a self-assessment, because the Foreign Service is not just a job, it's not just a career, it's actually a lifestyle. Everything about what you do and how you live your life changes from what it was when you're living in the United States. I'm from Michigan, Detroit specifically, as you can tell by the D on my hat and the D hat that I wear everywhere I go. It's very different than living here in Ethiopia. Is very different than living in Detroit, obviously, right? So it's not just a career choice, it's a lifestyle choice. And so my wife and I, we chose to live this lifestyle. We chose to live a lifestyle where we can travel everywhere pretty much anytime we want and live overseas. So you have to be ready for that. You have to be honest with yourself to determine if it's something that you're able to do and will feel comfortable doing and will be successful doing. But it's not just about you. It's also about your family, if you have a family, if you have a significant other, a partner, a spouse, if you have children, they're in that lifestyle too. So you have to, number one, do a self-assessment. Number two, talk with your family to make sure that they're okay with this lifestyle as well. Now, not everybody brings their family with them. We know people that are posted overseas where their spouse is still at home with the children or at home without children. It happens. So it's a choice that you're able to make as a family. The person can go overseas by themselves without their family, or they can bring their family with them. And by family, I'm also including pets, right? So pets can go too. So you need to do a self-assessment. And so I'm going to give you guys 5 questions that you can ask yourselves first and then ask your family, and to determine if you guys are ready for this lifestyle. So here we go. Question number 1. Are you okay with moving to a new country every 2 to 3 years? Most posts are 2 years, some are 3 years, some posts are 2 years that you can extend to a 3rd year, but on average, you're moving every 2 to 3 years to a different country. Are you okay with that? Question number 2. Some of these posts are in rough places, right? And they're considered hardship posts. Things can be rough in parts of the world, and the U.S. government has a presence in a lot of those places. And sometimes they send people to those places. So the second question is, are you okay with being posted in what they may call a hardship post? Hardship post could be a place where there could be some danger. There could be some civil unrest there, so it could pose a danger to you and your family. Or hardship could come in the form of you're just without the modern conveniences that you're used to from a first world country. Moving from a first world country to a third world country, things are different. There may be some creature comforts that you may not have access to. Your internet may not be as fast. Your power, your electricity may not be as stable or reliable as it was at home. You may not be able to have access to some of the food you're used to, right? So some of these things they can range from just inconveniences all the way to situations that could be considered potentially dangerous based on what's going on in that country at that time. And so you have to ask yourself, am I prepared to live in those kind of situations, from being inconvenienced to, in some cases, being in situations where it could be considered dangerous. Now, the thing about these hardship posts, number 1, the U.S. government is going to do the best they can to make sure you're safe and secure. They're not about this is not the military, right? So they're not sending people off, to get harmed or hurt or injured, right? So, this is not the military, right? So they do everything they can to make sure that their people are safe. They're living in safe quarters. They're in a safe environment as much as possible. They do everything they can to do that. Some places could have, you could be in a home. You could have personal security in your home. Your home could be very secure. You could be living in a compound that has, security and armed guards and things of that nature. So if it's a country that could have the potential for some danger, the government they do a lot to make sure that you're safe and secure, right? So that helps ease those concerns a lot. Also, in these different posts that are considered hardship posts, you can get up to 150% above your base pay to be working in these types of situations. So it does come with an incentive to go to these places. And I know people who only choose those places because they can almost double their pay to work there, and they're okay with taking that risk in order to double their pay, right? They don't have to do it all the time. They may do it, 1 or 2 posts like that and kind of stack up their money and then do some cushier posts after that. So you have options there. And I said a lot with that question, so let me just ask the question again. Are you okay with being at a post that could be considered a hardship post? That's question number 2. Question number 3. Are you okay with being separated from family and friends? That's obvious. You're going to be way somewhere across the world, somewhere you're not going to be able to see your family and friends as much as you used to. And so you have to ask yourself, are you okay with that? Are you okay with missing family gatherings and missing events, right? You have to be okay with that. There'll be opportunity to fly across if something's very, very important to you. Of course, you can always go there if it's that important. But obviously, you're not going to be able to do it the way you can do it if you were actually living in the States. So you have to be okay with that. Are you okay with being separated from your family and your friends? Number 4, are you okay in working in an administration that you may not agree with? These are government positions under the Department of State. And so if there's a presidential administration that you may not agree with, these are not political positions at all. So they don't change based on who the president is or anything of that nature. It's not a political position. It's a job. It's not a political appointment. But at the end of the day, it is a government job. And so, there could be a president or a presidential administration that you may not agree with. And are you okay with working for the government, even though you may not agree with the presidential administration at that time? And of course, obviously, that's going to change at the most every 8 years, right? It could change every 4 years, but it's going to change every 8 years. And so you just got to be okay with that. Or you don't have to be okay with it, but you have to ask yourself, can I be okay with it? And if you are, fine. So that's question number 4. Question number 5. Are you okay with being surrounded by different cultures and traditions from what you're used to or your own, right? You got to be okay with that because you're going to be around, everything is going to be different. Everything is going to be different. And so I can't even overstate that how much is going to be different. Everything is going to be different than what you're used to culturally and traditions and things of that nature because you're in a whole different country, right? And you're living in that country. And living in a country is a lot different than vacationing in a different country or visiting a different country for 3 or 4 days, 5 days, or whatever, right? Living there is totally different. So are you okay with being surrounded by different cultures and traditions because you're living in a different country? That's question number 5. And so when you're looking at these questions, you really have to be honest with yourself when you answer these questions. And again, make sure you're talking to your family about these questions because, they may come with you. And as a family, you guys can decide how you want that to be. Do you want to leave the family behind? Or do you want to take them with you? Or some people even separate the family. I know family with multiple kids where some kids go and some kids stay. The younger kids may go. And if there are older kids that are like in high school and don't want to leave their last 2 years of high school or something, they may choose to stay back with another family member. So these are questions that you first have to ask yourself. And then once you've asked yourself the questions, then you have these discussions with your significant other, your partner, your spouse, and your children. And so that's about it. That's it for this bonus video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys around.